A very warm welcome to all our viewers and thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Rivaldo Kavanga and I'll be your moderator for today's Social League. Our theme for the Social League today will be the music industry. We'll basically dive into the music industry and see how it really is. And I'm joined by two very, very successful music artists slash songwriters slash DJs slash doctors. So first on our panel, we would welcome our Namibia's very own hip-hop artist, KP Illest. Welcome, KP.
Well, thank you for having me, my brother.
Okay. Next up with us today, we have Vaughn, Ahrens, our songwriter slash DJ slash doctor. Welcome, Vaughn.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. So I remember the first time I got I got a phone, basically started recording myself. I thought that, I'll become an artist. And I mean, looking at all these rap artists in the world back then, Lil Wayne, all this stuff, I'm like, that's definitely what I want to do. Yeah. But then as I continued telling my parents these dreams, telling my cousins this dream, they're like, that is not gonna work out. So I don't know, how was it like when you first let your parents and your friends know that you wanted to dive into the Namibian music industry? KP?
For me, it was okay. My parents didn't take it. They just kind of said, as long as you don't drop out of school and don't do drugs, then you're cool. They didn't really support it, but they didn't pull it back from me. So they were just like, yeah, just do what you want. Just finish school first. Okay. I don't know how it was for the good doctor.
Well, for me, I'm in a slightly different genre than you.
Yeah.
So I was able to kind of work my way through the ranks. So when I was like 15, I started playing cafes and bars and stuff to kind of show my commitment to my parents that, you know, that this is what I want to do. Yeah. They still, obviously, it's not that it's not a viable career choice here. It's just quite off center here. So it's you kind of have to go through. I mean, KP, you can also relate that as a musician these days in the country, you're not just a musician. You're also a producer or an engineer or a DJ or whatever. So to do that, you kind of need to be open to diversify, and you must need to be open to work really long hours, and for, you know, sometimes next to nothing when you're starting out. You know, you'll kind of, people always joke about the exposure thing, but in the beginning, exposure is definitely something that you need to get your name out there. So my parents luckily were very supportive. I'm very lucky with a family that they said, listen, we're gonna support it, but remember that you need to work really hard to get this going, because you know, you can't. There's a big family pride thing in Namibia as well. You know, you don't want to be the kid that still lives at his parents' house when he's 35. So
definitely, Vaughn. And I certainly agree to the point where your parents told you that you really need to work hard. People think that it's only in industries like becoming lawyers or doctors that you have to work really hard. But I mean, in every profession, be it a musician, an artist, a producer, you also need to put in the work to reach heights. But now I want to ask you guys, what actually got you into the music industry? Vaughn?
It's just a love for it, man. Like, it's just, to be quite honest with you, I couldn't imagine doing anything else, really. I didn't give myself the opportunity to think that maybe I should do this. I've always just thought, I'm going to be a musician, that's just what it is, and I'm going to have to do what it takes to get there.
JP?
I know, for me, I came from a musical family, so everybody in my family can sing. So I tried out singing. I thought, let me just do it. I'll probably do it better than everyone else. And then I couldn't, fortunately or unfortunately. And then I figured, let me do rap, because I wasn't definitely not gonna not do music. Everyone does music in the family. I wasn't gonna be the guy that can't do music. So I just did it to prove that I can, and then you know, became a career after that. Started taking it a bit more seriously. In the beginning, I just wanted to show that I can, and then I started taking it more seriously. But it's always been a part of my life. If I wasn't writing poetry for girls in grade 4, that was my rap.
Okay, so thank you so much. But then also, we want to dive into the Namibian music industry now, how the dynamics are and how everything works. We know that the market isn't that conducive. But now I want to get to know from you guys, and this will also inform our viewers, what are the things you wish you knew before actually entering the music industry? KP?
Yeah, things I wish I knew. I wish I knew how long it takes. So I wouldn't have sat there at times thinking it's never going to happen. If I had known that, okay, cool, after a certain amount of time, certain things are going to happen to you. And also if I knew understanding the market, because you when you start it, you kind of just think that as long as you just do music, people receive it. But you have to understand that your market here is a lot different from the market that you're watching people sell to, because we grew up watching the West.
Yeah.
So we grew up watching, like, for example, Lil Wayne. So you're trying to make music like him, thinking you're selling to the same audience when you're not. You're selling to a whole different audience. If I had known that, we probably would have had this interview like 5 years ago.
Vaughn?
Yeah, I wish I knew how hard it really is. As a kid, you filled with this optimism that I'm gonna release my first single and I'm gonna be famous. I'm sorry, it's not that it's not possible. There are people that have great success as first time around, but more often than not, fortunately and unfortunately, that you're gonna have to put in a couple of tracks for people to start noticing. You're gonna have to market to your market in the country. You can't just it's all about where you're situated. So I'm not gonna be I don't think I was gonna write the same kind of album in, say, the States as I am writing here.
Exactly.
I'm writing for my audience here, and I guess that's what you need to find out. Like you said, you're not going to write if you like Lil Wayne if you're in Namibia.
Yeah, it doesn't
so
make sense.
not that it's sub what you want to write. It's just you're going to have to change your mindset if you want to be successful here.
Exactly, and thank you. So then now we want to dive into the actual thing. We want to get to know how our Namibian artist average day looks like. So KP, what does your average day looks like?
I think that's the crazy thing about being an artist. You never actually have an average day. There's no such thing as I did this yesterday, I'm gonna do this tomorrow. Also, because of the way our industry works, you could get booked for a gig in the next 2 hours.
You can get a campaign for FMB for 2 weeks.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So they could call you today and say, yo, we need you at 11. Or you could spend the whole day in the studio. But I think if you'd want to kind of generalize it, the actual average day would be the whole day in the studio, if we could. But one thing that artists also have to understand is that before the music starts to pay dividends, in a sense, you have to subsidize it somehow.
Yeah.
So for most average artists, especially up and comers, your average day involves a side job. So either maybe you're a waiter or a sound engineer at a radio station like I was. So that's how that goes. An average day always involved something that was not music related, and then coming home and then doing music until like 3 in the morning or something like that.
Amazing. Vaughn?
I think it's also important to actually have something that takes your mind off it. I think you burn out quicker if your whole day revolves around one thing.
Yeah, definitely.
In my case, it's a bit different because I'm very fortunate to be able to pursue more than one passion at a time. So I used to do gymnastics all over the world, and I am now a...
Add that there.
Yeah, so I'm also a gymnastics coach, which is also kind of it's a form of income, but it's also kind of my way of giving back. So I wake up in the morning and I do music in the morning. In the afternoons, I'm a gymnastics coach, which I'm really, really fond of doing. And in the evenings, I am a radio DJ. So there's always, luckily it's most of it, not most of it, all of it is a passion at least of mine. So at least I can say that my whole day is full of passion rather than
Work.
Work.
So basically what I got from the panel right now is that if you follow your passions, you don't necessarily get work, but you rather do things that help you make an income, but at the same time you also have fun doing them. So my next question would rather go, there are a lot of challenges Namibian artists face. So what has been the biggest challenge you guys have actually faced? Vaughn?
Payment. Money.
Yo,
I think not in all cases, but I think a lot of people don't value it as much as they should. Not that I say that we should be paid like presidents or whatever, or maybe, but, but I mean, I think a lot of people don't value. So basically, when you go to a doctor, you're paying for his medical degree also. So when you're paying for me or KP to perform, you're paying for all the you know, hours we put in the studio, all the hours put in writing. That's what you're paying for essentially. And I think a lot of people don't, you know, equate that. Not that I say musicians should be paid as the same as doctors. I'm saying, you know, pay relative to the amount of work that you put in.
Yeah.
KP.
I think for me it was the biggest challenge was understanding the market in the industry that I'm in, because hip hop was not, or it's not been the leading genre here in the longest time. So already when I told, like for example, my friends, I want to be an artist, and then I said, about to do hip hop, it was already like, yo, you already put yourself in a small box by being an artist. Now you put yourself in a smaller box by being a hip hop artist. So I think the most difficult thing for me was understanding the market and trying to hit that sweet spot between still making the music, still feeling true to myself, but at the same time making sure that I'm giving it to the people in a way that they want it. You can't sell a product just because you like it.
Yeah.
Other people have to like it too. So that was the longest. I spent nights upon nights just trying to get that formula right, just trying to figure that out.
And balancing, because we're not doing just music because we want to make money. We also do music because we like what we do. So it's that balancing act between who am I selling to and what do I enjoy doing. I'm definitely not going to put out I'm a piano album anytime soon.
Me neither.
But I mean, you need to balance that act between what do I want to do and what do people want to receive. You know?
Exactly.
Well, thank you. I want to disagree with Vaughn on a point there. I do think Namibian artists should be paid as much as the president. I mean, all careers are important, relatively important to me.
President.
No way.
Okay, but then I also want to dive in. This is where our viewers watching actually get to learn something. What has been the biggest lesson for you in the music industry so far? KP.
Yo, I really hate saying this, but I think it goes without saying that it's a contact sport. So you have to understand that it's not friendly. And in terms of it's not friendly and it's not malicious at the same time. So when it's not friendly, it's not because people don't like you or something like that. It's just because you have to understand that even though it's your passion, for other people, for corporates that are hiring you, it's just a business transaction.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of put your feelings aside, which is very difficult because when you're doing something you're passionate about, how are you putting your feelings aside? But that little balancing act, just especially when you're like me, I'm like super friendly. So it's really weird to be in an industry where no one is friendly. But you have to understand that.
What?
I think a big lesson that you need to learn really quickly is to know your worth. As soon as you're going to start underselling yourself, that's when people are going to start buying what you're underselling. So I see it always as you've got this amount of value. Every time you take away from that, that's your new value. You can't go back to where you were. You need to remember, before you do a job for someone, before you play a gig, you should have a sense of what am I worth to, not necessarily in a monetary fashion, but like, what am I worth these people? As soon as you're going to start, selling out or doing that kind of thing, that's you can't get back. You can't take back the respect that you've lost. So just from the get-go, have a sense of self-respect, and you should get quite far in this industry.
A good doctor, man.
Exactly. Exactly. So know your worth, basically. Know your worth, and know what type of industry you're digging into actually at the time. But now, I just want to get to know. We can have amendments or changes to the Namibian music industry. So if you guys could actually change one thing in the music industry, what would it be? Vaughn?
That's a tough one.
Really
Well, I guess that question is it's specifically to certain people. Like it's some people would change one thing, and some people. Like for instance, I'm in a bit of a more niche genre than say KP, but I mean KP didn't start out in a niche market. When he started doing hip hop, people weren't consuming hip hop, and when I started doing my pop music, it's not being consumed. I guess having people more open-minded about other people coming. I think that's a big deterrent to people in the music industry. It's like, I don't want to make what everyone else is making. No, I don't want to make anything. So I guess if I could change one thing is for people to kind of be more open-minded and receiving things. But that's a personal thing, you know. I don't think people shouldn't have to change the way that they listen to music for me. So so that's a personal thing for me. I don't know about you, KB.
Yeah, actually, exactly the same. Well, not exactly the same. I think definitely just the way people, the openness of the industry. It would be nice if the industry was more open to new people. But this industry is it's like a well-kept secret. When you get to a certain level, it's like they open the door, they invite you, and they say, close, close, close. And let the other guys see. So I think in terms of just people being open to new things in terms of new artists, not necessarily new genres, because you have to understand that not everybody is the same type of good. If you want to be a good guitarist, it doesn't mean you switch notes better than anyone else, but it might mean you're able to play a certain note better than anyone else. And the industry is not very open to that. We want the best singer, the best rapper, and the best one, and the rest, you know, just go off. So if you could just open up to that in terms of mindset and also in terms of checkbook.
Or people being more open-minded in the sense that, okay, cool, this guy is 17, he's bringing out a single, he's got a lot of time to grow still. Let's not judge him like KP, who's now on his how many project that you've brought out, you know. If you were still making the same music as you did 5 years ago or 10 years ago, then that's a different story. But if you bring out your first record, people tend to scrutinize that to death. And so that's I think why there's so much pressure, is because they know that they're going to get scrutinized underneath the same comb as everybody else, which is cool in one way, but another way it's not conducive to people growing.
Yeah, you want to scrutinize the potential rather than that being project. The end product. Yeah, no, I get you.
Exactly. What I got from the panel is that our music industry should be more open, and also that we shouldn't compare, or rather we should rather grow young and upcoming artists rather than judge them based on their first song. But then moving on, I want to know from the panel, this was actually a personal question that I came up with, because I told you guys in the beginning I had aspirations of becoming a musician. So what is your favorite part about being a musician, and your least favorite and the reason why? So your favorite, your least favorite, and the reason why. KP.
I think my favorite is actually being in the studio. I absolutely love the entire process of making music. So from getting the beat, working on the beat, writing the song, putting it all together, trying and failing, that entire process. If I could live in the studio, if I could just be a student, like if I could just finish music, send it out, and that's it. If I didn't have to perform, do music videos, photo shoots, none of that, that would be the best for me. So for me, I enjoy that entire process. I think the thing I hate most is negotiating. That's another night.
You don't know in Namibia that if you're a musician, you're also a key negotiator.
Yeah, you are.
So my favorite thing, and KP also knows this about me, is that I like making the beat. I like having nothing in the morning when I wake up in my audio work interface, and by 12 having a song. There was nothing there, and now there's something. That's my favorite part. Is the creative part, as in to make something from nothing. And my least favorite part is the self-criticism of, is this snare the snare that I want? Is this the EQ I want on this? Is this what I want? So that's my least favorite part. It's a good thing and a bad thing, but it can be counterproductive if you are your own worst critic. You know, and I think some people sometimes take it too far, and that's my least favorite thing about that. Is, listen, man, this song is good, put it out. It's like, oh, but what about this? People aren't going to hear the little things that bother you always. That's the thing. So that's my least favorite thing, is the lack of confidence of some people. Just put it out. That's how you get started. You know, if I have to compare the first, I put out an EP a couple of years ago. If I have to compare that EP to the album I'm busy with now, it's worlds apart. But if I didn't release that EP, I never would have gotten to this point. I still would have been busy with that EP. And I wouldn't be sitting on the couch with award-winning KPIs.
But it's true. But in the industry, you have to be your biggest fan and your biggest critic at the same time. You can't be one or the other. You can't be the person that's just hyping themselves up the entire time. Oh, this is hard. This is hard. You can't be that person. But you also can't be the person that's always telling yourself this is not good. So you have to find. I can understand why that's so difficult, because you kind of have to find that sweet
This is
spot
middle
between
ground.
being honest with yourself and also giving yourself room to just be a human being.
Yeah.
Because artists are not perfect. Most of our songs, if you listen to the songs, we can probably show you
Where the faults lie.
many wrong things, and you'll be like, I never heard that
But now
until
I hear
now.
it.
Yeah, that you show it to me. But you have to understand that, okay, cool, I'm a human being. If I can't hit that note, I can't hit that note. I'm just gonna auto-tune it a little bit. That's how it's gonna go.
In all honesty, there has never been a beat or a song that I've produced where there wasn't a point in time during the process where I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah, let me just stop.
There's no point in time. It might be a fleeting moment, it might be a long moment, but there's always a time when I'm like, this is terrible. Why am I doing this? I shouldn't be doing this. And then I quickly snap out of it and be like, oh no, this is not so terrible. You know, you need that as a check and balance in your life, so that you don't become, you know, the bad part of Kanye.
Or the good part of Jay-Z.
Okay. So basically from our panel, what they said was, don't be too harsh on yourself, and also be your biggest fan, but also be your biggest critic at the same time. I'll try that out soon. Sounds really difficult. But now we're reaching the climax of our conversation, and this is where all our viewers actually get to learn so much. So what advice would you give to aspiring artists, KP?
Put out as much music as possible. Like, you shouldn't be worried about the industry, especially when you're aspiring, because aspiring, if we're talking about aspiring, that means you're starting out, probably. There shouldn't be a worry about the industry. There shouldn't be a worry about cover art. There shouldn't be a worry about who's the market. Is this? You should just be flooding the place with music, because that's where you're going to find core fans, which is the most important thing for any artist, is understanding who are your core fans, not the people that like your hit songs. They're actually the people that like the music you make. But you're never going to understand that if you're just trying to put out a hit song. If you're just listening to Afro pop, you're putting out Afro pop, then Amapiano, you're putting out Amapiano, then hip hop, whatever. So if you're a young artist, especially hip hop artist, you just have to flood the internet, especially just with music. Don't worry too much about all the other stuff that bigger artists are worrying about. Don't worry about endorsement deals. Don't worry about management contracts. You just put out music. If they would do that and then talk a lot less. I think everyone is too concerned with looking like
a rapper.
Yeah, looking like an artist before actually being one. So that's the most important. Just put out the music. I don't know, Doc.
What?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time people are concerned with having I think I've touched on it earlier, having the perfect thing out the first time. You're not gonna have the perfect thing out the first time unless you're handpicked from a group of people and you get a producer and you're not gonna have the perfect record in the first time. And I think the moment that you feel that you can't learn anymore is the time that you stagnate. So always be teachable. That is the biggest lesson I've learned, is that you have never learned everything. You're never close to being the knower of all things. So my biggest advice to someone, like, it doesn't matter where it comes from. I can take criticism and I can take advice from any person on this planet. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you start becoming a person who can't be teachable, that's when you're not going to grow anymore. That's going to be the apex of your growth and your stagnation, unfortunately.
That's cold, though. That's cold.
Okay, so right here we had KP Illest and Dr. Vaughn with us. I'd just like to say thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Rivaldo Kavanga and this was The Social League.